Thank you very much, Beth. Raise your glasses. I hope you have a good rosé with you today for the upcoming program. To fellow Skulligs everywhere.
To fellow
Fellow
Skulligs
Skulligs
everywhere.
everywhere.
Happiness,
Happiness.
good health,
Good health.
friendship,
Friendship.
long life,
Long life.
Skål.
Skål.
Oh.
Carrie, that looks
Official
like
greeting.
water.
Prosecco.
Gary, that's water. That's not wine. See.
Hey, no calling anybody out. Jim, would you like, is there any updates or anything that you would like to share with the club? Because I've allocated some time, so please, it's all yours.
Well, thanks very much. Yeah, a few things. Number one, this year we're continuing the Skal USA webinar series. February 25th, we have Catherine Haak, who you may or may not know. You might be friends with her on social media. She's based up in Calgary, I believe, and she's a social media guru. And not that you guys need it, because you do probably the best Zooms going, but she's going to show clubs and individuals how to do a better Zoom meeting. So that's February 25th. And then we have on March 16th, Greg Takahara, who you know, is doing a Tourism Cares webinar. And in April, we have, let's see, I can't think, Pauline Frommer, Arthur Frommer's daughter, who is doing a webinar on her travel experiences, her books, etc. The date, Holly, I can't remember. It's like the 20-something of April, but we'll get that to you. Two other things, actually 3 other things. I'll take up the whole hour if you don't mind, but one of the other things I want to mention is we're starting up a new club in St. Louis, which is really exciting. We happen to get in touch with a few people out there, and they're anxious to get into the networking and support that Skal is giving everyone. And what we're asking everyone, every club, if you have any contacts, hoteliers, tour people in the St. Louis area, have them contact me and I'll put them in touch with the people that are doing the organizing. So if you have anybody in the St. Louis area, whether it's on the Illinois side of the river or the St. Louis side, let me know about it and we'll get in touch with them. Another thing we're trying to do, I think you may know Anthony Melchiori. He did one of our webinars. He's the Hotel Impossible guy on the Travel Channel. He started a fund about 8 months ago called Hospitality Strong. And we've been pushing that for quite a while. And I suggested to him about 2 weeks ago that we do something in line with a webinar, but a webathon, like the old Jerry Lewis telethons, so that we'd have an event that would go for maybe 4 or 5 hours with entertainment, with speakers, and try to raise more money for the hospitality industry, for those people that are out of work and trying to pay their rent. We'll have more on that hopefully in the next week or two. And finally, and Holly may add to this as well, we're hoping to have our annual general meeting in Orlando on May the 20th. They had to cancel the NASC in Orlando because they didn't think they'd get the turnout from Canada, the US, etc. But they're able to hold a limited number of people, host a limited number of people down there. Right now, I think they can, another 25 people are welcome to go down there. It's the 20th, they're having a golf tournament on the 21st. Most of us on the EC are flying down on the 19th. Our meeting will be held 1 o'clock on the 20th. It'll be Zoomed for everybody if you want to watch. It should be really entertaining. It'll be from 1 until 5, I assume, on the 20th. And we'll come back home on either the evening on the 21st or the 22nd. So anybody that's interested, again, we'll put that out in maybe a week or so, inviting people. The reason only 25 more are invited, like everything else these days, there is a limited number of people that can go and be at the hotel. The hotel price is only $69 at the Crown Plaza in Orlando. And that was an amazing offer they gave to us. So put that down on your calendar, either for Zoom or going in person. And basically, that's it. We're trying to get more and more clubs involved in Zooms and, invite other club presidents to yours because they are sensational.
Well, thank you very much. And is it Christine that's doing the webinar next week on the Zooms? Is that her first name?
Catherine.
Just to let everybody know, she and I did speak in advance, and she took some of the highlights of our meetings and some of the images and things like that. And so I think that we will be highlighted in one way, shape, or form during her presentation next week on the 25th. So
Great.
I'm going to tune into that as well. So thanks for that reminder. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the updates as always. And you're always welcome, and you can move here if you really want to. We'd love to have you as our guest all the time. We have a special meeting today, but before we get started, I just wanted to reiterate, and we're going to induct the 2021 board this year. And it is really a rollover from the 2020 board, with the exception of Deborah Borgwart and Tom Culbertson. Both of these individuals, unfortunately, were furloughed from their positions that they had. And due to the bylaws, they both elected that they were going to move on. So we had our nominating committee met and approved moving Mary Chin up to vice president, Kevin Panetta up to secretary, Efren Aponte as our treasurer, and Stephanie Pappas is a new board member, and she will assume the role of assistant secretary and treasurer. And I think most of you know those officers because they've been to many of our meetings in the past. And then all the rest of the board members, which you will see shortly, stay the same, except with the addition of Patricia or Trish Berry. She's the general manager of the Yotel. She joins the board as well. We unfortunately lost Alyssa Dion Rodding as our social media chairperson, because she too decided that she was going to pursue employment elsewhere after being furloughed from Marriott. But Alyssa has done such a fabulous job in the social media platform for us that our board has elected to retain her for the 2021 year. So we have some consistency, and we're very excited that Alyssa will be doing our social media. And going forward after this meeting, Alyssa will be a part of this meeting, so she can let all of you know all the great things and making sure that you are all following the right platform. So without waiting any further, I'm going to first turn it over to Carrie Campbell, our membership chair. And thank you, Carrie, for all of your hard work, because I think we have some guests today and we're going to introduce them. So Carrie.
Yes, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Madam President. We do have a couple of prospective new members on the call. They're in process with Skal USA and our welcome process, sending invoices for dues and so forth. So more to come on officially welcoming them, but some of them are on the call today. Keiko Oral, the Executive Director of the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism. I think many of you know her well. We're going to be welcoming her soon as a new member. Hi, Keiko. We also have Cheryl White Vincent, who is the Senior Director of Event and Conference Services at the Museum of Science. Welcome, Cheryl. I don't see Sean Scioto on the call. He's the GM of Hyatt Centric. He may have had a conflict today, but he was just approved as a new member. And lastly, my guest today, Erica Smith, who's the Director of Member Services for the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. And she also heads up the Hospitality and Leadership Council, Hospitality, Tourism and Leadership Council, sorry. And really just wanted to introduce her to all of you so she can get familiar with names and faces. Most of us, many of us are also members of the Chamber. And this is a very great leadership council. And I just wanted to make sure that I could introduce her to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome. We're glad that you are here as our guests. And we hope that you enjoy our presentation that we have. And before we introduce the 2021 board, I do want to let everyone know that following that, Terrilynn Haak, as you all know, Terrilynn, our past president, was responsible for our speaker today, who is Sandy Block, a master of wine. And she will do the introduction after you see the new board. And then it's really all about Sandy, and he's going to tell us about a fabulous wine. So let's get started, and let me introduce our new 2021 board. First, Mike Cataldo will stay on as our executive secretary. Thank you, Mike, for your years of service in that capacity. Our auditors will be Dennis Graham and Dan Donahue. And those two individuals are responsible for keeping the rest of us in order and making sure that all of our monies are spent wisely and that we document everything and get that information into Skal International. Our members at large include Carrie Campbell, who is our membership chair and has done such a fabulous job for us in the past. And I'm very excited that she has decided to stay on in that capacity. Rochelle Boudreau, who will be working with our membership, our bylaws committee. Mariana Acamando, Joe Malia, and both Joe and Mariana have been very instrumental in all of our raffles and doing a lot of our special events and things like that. And we'll continue to do that and trying to develop some better programming for us in 2021. And as I said, our new member is Trish Berry, and Trish is the general manager of the Yotel. So that is your board. And our officers, our assistant secretary treasurer is Stephanie Pappas. Our treasurer is Efren Aponte. Our secretary is Kevin Panetta. Our vice president is Mary Chin. President, me, still here. And the past president is Terrilynn Haak. So therefore, if we can just have one group picture, that is your 2021 Skal Board of Directors. So we are here to service you and to present you with some of the best meetings that we possibly can via Zoom. And hopefully this year we will have some in-person meetings. So thank you all in advance. And I know they're all looking forward to working with all of you as well. So thanks a lot.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob. We appreciate it. And again, I would just really like to thank everybody for their work in 2020. It was a challenging year and a lot of us didn't really know what to expect from month to month, but that group of individuals and all of you on the phone and those on the Zoom and those of you who couldn't make it, we wouldn't be the club that we were without all of you. Mary did an outstanding job. We have 141 people rejoined this year. 17 members took advantage of the Skal USA relief program, which is phenomenal. And Carrie already has 4 people to bring us up to right now. We'll have 145, 141 plus 4 is 445, that's good. And the board has all accepted a challenge at our meeting this morning that if we all come through with one additional member, we should be able to achieve Carrie's goal of 160 members by the end of 2021. So we have our work cut out for us to make sure that we continue to give all of you the best possible programming and networking opportunities that we can. With that, I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to Terrilynn and our guests for the day. So Terrilynn.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully everyone in our industry knows how privileged we are to have Sandy take a few moments out of his busy day to share our Skal meeting today. I will go over just a few highlights of his very impressive life thus far. Sandy Block graduated from Vassar College and was on his way to a PhD in history when the wine bug bit. He worked as a wine distribution executive, eventually studying to become a master of wine. Sandy was the first American on the East Coast of the United States to be certified as a master of wine, and is only one of 376 individuals worldwide to earn this title. Sandy developed the curriculum for the Accredited Wine Studies program at Boston University and for several years taught a wine tasting course to aspiring chefs at the Cambridge School of Culinary Arts. Sandy previously worked as Vice President of Beverage Operations for Legal Seafood, Assistant Vice President for Wine for Horizon Beverage Company, and as General Manager of Whitehall Imports and Vice President of Product Strategies. Sandy also contributed dozens of articles to wine periodicals and has published almost 50 short stories under a pseudonym in a wide range of literary journals. How lucky are we to have Sandy as our special guest today? At this time, you don't want to hear from me. We'll let Sandy continue the meeting.
Thank you very much, Terrilynn. I appreciate it. I'm going to start out with a confession. But you've got to promise. You can't tell anyone it will destroy my reputation. Everyone ready for true confession time? Once I was a sommelier. I didn't know anything about wine. I didn't drink wine, but I was told to go up to tables in the restaurant, introduce myself, and say things like, perhaps maybe we can suggest a bottle of wine with your lobster thermidor tonight, a nice Merceau. Half of the tables would say, what's that funny silver ashtray hanging from that guy's neck? You all remember these? Called the taster man. So we used to have them on a chain and dangling from our neck. And the other half, by far the most common response when I'd ask for what wine people were interested in was, just bring us another Amaretto sour and a Crown Royal Old Fashioned. So what was my sole qualification to hold this lofty position of responsibility? Anybody want to guess? Well, the answer is I could pronounce the word sommelier, and that was pretty much it. I'd studied French in graduate school, and I had a passing familiarity with how to use a corkscrew. And back then, before we officially reclassified wine into a health food, only about 5% of the dollars Americans spent on alcohol was for wine. A good part of that was on wine coolers, Riuniti on ice, Blue Nun, Matus Rosé, Sutter Home White Zinfandel, all these gimmick wines. In fact, back then, Yellowtail would have been a huge upgrade, even at Gallo Hardy Burgundy. So in the US, we've never really been a wine drinking country. Historically, Americans were whiskey drinkers who converted in the late 19th century to beer. Today, the beer industry in the US is still almost 3 times larger than the wine industry, the spirits industry almost twice as large. So we are now at 17% of the dollars we spend on alcohol spent on wine. And this is up from about 5% in the period that I was talking about a moment ago. By the way, guess who the largest beer drinking country in the world is? Any thoughts? Any guesses?
Germany.
Germany, that's the most common guess, and it's a great guess, but it's not the answer. Any others?
Japan.
Good guess also. Nope.
US?
It's the US. Excellent. Very good. What about spirits? Who drinks more spirits than any other country in the world?
Somerville.
Well, you're in the right country. It's also the US. So we drink more beer than anybody else and more spirits than anyone else. Anyone want to take a stab at who the largest consumer of wine is in the world?
Me.
Not per capita. You. Okay. What country drinks more wine than any other country in the world?
France.
France, excellent guess. And people usually guess
I'm going
France.
to guess US again, right?
You are absolutely right. We lead in all 3 categories. Yay for us. Give ourselves a big hand. We're also the world's largest wine importer. So we drink a lot of alcohol in this country. But we drink it for different reasons. One of the things I do is I have a history of wine course that I teach at Boston University. And research has shown that these are the major reasons people used to drink wine as opposed to why we drink it now. For most of human history, it was safer to drink than water, which wasn't even potable. So health reasons. Number 2, it had magical qualities, and we regarded it in awe as a gift from God, a symbol of the divine love for us. So it had a religious impulse, a spiritual impulse. Number 3, it was a source of nutrition and calories in a subsistence diet. And if you think about it, it enabled us to preserve the harvest for a much longer period of time before we had refrigeration. So the alcohol preserved the grape juice flavor and nutrients. And fourthly, it was a symbol of social status. People that could afford better wines differentiated themselves from the rest of the population by being able to drink them. Egyptian pharaohs were in tune with jars of wine in their crypts for safe passage to the afterlife. So today, it's obviously a hospitality choice. And what fascinates me about it, and I assume some of you, is what drew me to the serious study of wine really way after I became a sommelier, and continues to fascinate me about the subject, is it incorporates almost everything: history, anthropology, biology, chemistry, geology, travel, language, economics, and it continues to change every day. You can't really master it because there's always a new vintage, a new rising grape variety, a new category. So it's always fresh. But wine, like every other product, is subject to the vagaries of fashion. One thing I did learn in my sommelier days, if it's hard to pronounce, people won't buy it because they'll avoid saying its name. So one of my tips to restaurant diners over the years is to look at the list and consider the most obscure, unpronounceable name on the list as an option, because these are often the best values in the restaurant. And somebody liked them enough to buy them, knowing how hard they would be to sell. So there's one wine that I always recommend. It's not the one we're going to have today, which is Chomen Ichanish Chakoli. And it's spelled with a lot of X's and Z's. And that's a wine from the Basque country in northwestern Spain. And it's a really delicious wine, but people shy away from it because it's so hard to pronounce. Not too expensive either. The wine I have chosen to discuss today is from what is a very hot, fashionable category. In fact, it's easy to say it's actually 2 or 3 hot categories together in one. Here it is. I don't know if anybody has a bottle of this or has a similar bottle, but this is the one we're going to talk about and taste. Or I'm going to talk about and taste. If you think back 10 years, most of us would never be caught dead drinking a rosé in public. Why is that? Why do you think? Because somebody might see us and say, check that guy out, he's drinking white Zinfandel. So that's kind of what the category said 10 years ago. Today, consumption of dry rosé is growing at an exponential rate. It's quadrupled in the last year. And I have a couple of theories as to why. One of them is pink shows a little bit better on Instagram than white or red. And the other is that as we all get lazier, this is one wine you rarely need a corkscrew to open. Usually comes in a stealth enclosure. This particular one does have a cork finish, but you don't really need them because rosés are meant to be drunk within the first 2 years after the harvest, and many of them within the first year. So they don't need corks because they don't age particularly well. The French, by the way, have drink 10 times, this is not just a number, but it's the accurate number, 10 times as much rosé as we do. They also have a 2,000-year head start on us drinking wine. They've always consumed copious quantities of rosé, in fact, more of it than they drink white wine, if you can believe that. True, though. So what has driven the boom in rosé and the fashionability of rosé are wines from Provence, AKA paradise on earth, magic place. People go to Provence. I'm sure many of you have vacationed there or traveled there, and they're instantaneously in a state of euphoria. And they want to recreate that when they come back to the US, so they bring back some Provençal rosés. The wines don't taste quite the same in the United States, and people don't understand why. They think maybe the wines don't travel. I think mainly it's because we're all stressed out in our lives when we're here in the US doing our job and not on vacation. And we're not in that euphoric state, but people just fall in love with Provençal rosés when they visit, and they brought that back. To me, there are better rosés for my palate, and everything with wine is subjective. One thing I learned a long time ago is if you like it, that's the definition of a good wine. It has nothing to do with objective judgment. This is all very personal. Everyone has a different palate. But I particularly like the rosés from up north in France, from the Loire Valley and from Alsace. Actually, Germany has been making some very good rosés recently. This is a Sancerre Rose, pure Pinot Noir. And when I introduce this to a lot of people, they are confused because they all think that Sancerre is a white wine, a Sauvignon Blanc. And in most cases it is, but about 25% of the grapes planted in the Sancerre Appellation Pétrolier are Pinot Noir, and most of those are made into rosés. The region has a special soil that contributes to the characteristics of both white and rosé, and in fact red Sancerre, and that is that the soils are very, very chalky and calcareous. And I learned a long time ago also the quickest way to put people to sleep is to talk about soils, but in this case there are two. One of them is Terre Blanche, white limestone clay, and the other one is Cayote, which is limestone pepper. And what do these do? They contribute a minerality to the wine. So if you have a wine in front of you, let's smell it, swirl it. And with this one, I get a lot of berries and a lot of earth and a lot of crushed stones and a little bit of herbs. And then taste it. And it's crisp, and it is very, very lingering on the palate. Kind of tastes a little bit like a white Sancerre with a strawberry in it. Has those light red fruit characteristics. Good with vegetarian dishes like salads. Good with salty food. Good with lighter fish fillets as well. So, by the way, what catapulted us from 5% wine to 17% wine, sticking on the French theme, is the French paradox. Do we all know what that is? This was a 60 Minutes show in 1991 that basically tried to answer the question of how is it that the French are eating all this foie gras and all these cheeses, and they never exercise like we do, except to get on their bicycles to go buy some Gaulois cigarettes. And we're the ones that are dying of heart attacks at 3 times the rate that the French are. And what the scientists came up with was red wine consumption there is much higher per capita, and red wine consumption in particular. And that started the wine boom in the United States. So I have a number of questions here that people sent in. Terry, would you like me to address those questions now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So one question was, what do I see as an upcoming trend in the beverage industry for summer? Are there any hot trends that are catching on that will be popular this summer? I have to say there's a bunch of hot trends that strike me as sustainable for the summertime. And one of them is not to do with wine, but hard seltzer. And what is driving hard seltzer? That wasn't even a category. It wasn't even an idea 5 years ago. But if you have a lot of, if you know a lot of Gen Z people and those that are a little bit older, they're attracted to it because it's low in alcohol and low in calories. And you can kind of, you know, it's what some of the people I used to work with me would call crushable. Doesn't have great flavor, but it does the job of satisfying that need. Tito's is unstoppable. Tito's vodka. Originally because it was gluten-free and people were excited by that, but today I think it's just a phenomenon. And in the wine category, bubbly, Prosecco or pink champagne. I think people are going to be really ready to celebrate this summer as more and more of us are vaccinated and they're going to be ready to go out and have a good time. And there's nothing more festive than a sparkler, especially a pink sparkler. And Rosé Prosecco was just approved. It didn't exist as a category before. Next question was, how much will last year's devastating wildfires in California affect the crop this year? And the answer to that is really unknown. Producers are very reluctant to discuss it. What we do know is that there were 4 million acres burned in California, including some prime land in Napa and Sonoma. California lost hundreds of thousands of tons of grapes due to smoke taint. And the fires release pollutants into the atmosphere, but it's never been shown that they impact the following harvest. So California was in a little bit of an oversupply situation with grapes and with wine. So the loss of all these acres actually helped balance supply and demand, not in a way anyone would have wished, obviously, but I don't think there's going to be a major decline in quality as a result of these tragedies. Next question is, we're both Brunello and Toscano fans, people after my own heart. Do you have any particular Toscanos or Brunellos that you would recommend? So, Brunello di Montalcino, there's 4 that I think are, in my taste, are the best. Casanova di Neri, Il Poggione, Poggio Antico, and Albizino. Just love all of them. And as far as the super Toscanos, I like the wines from the coast. So in particular, Tuarita, which is in Subareto, Ornellaia, Tenuta del Ornellaia, which is one of the first great ones. And one that's very expensive, and I rarely have gotten to taste it, but it's absolutely my favorite, called Masetto, which interestingly enough is pure Merlot. It is, along with Chateau Petrus, it's the greatest Merlot I've ever tasted by far. Next question concerned Portugal. Portugal is becoming a hotspot for wine, which is true. This is a question that really is close to me because one of the things I did as a general manager of one of the import companies that I was involved in is totally focused on Portugal. It was 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And the first time I went to Portugal tasting wine, it just flipped me out how inexpensive the wines were, how different they were. Portugal was not following the international, musical chairs of just planting more Cabernet, more Chardonnay, more Sauvignon Blanc. They had their own grape varieties. They were very unique and distinctive. And there were 7 or 8 regions that all made very different wines. So we put a lot of effort into marketing Portuguese wines in Massachusetts, as well as the rest of the country. But if I was going to come up with some producers in the region of Barada, I love Luis Pato and his daughter Filipa Pato. They make wine from a grape called Baga, rustic, very powerful. In the Douro, which is where port is from, Quinta do Crasto, Quinta do Balmeo. Quinta means farm in Portuguese. In the Alentejo, Marques de Borba Reserva. And the producer of that is a gentleman named João Portugal Ramos, an old friend of mine, makes startlingly good rosé at a ridiculous price, less than $10 a bottle retail. And then one Vinho Verde, and I like the Vinho Verde category. There's some very mass marketed ones, but there's one called Quinta do Soleiro Albarino, and it's the same grape that they use across the border in Spain, but they call it Alvarinho instead of Albarino. So those are my Portuguese recommendations. Next question was about sustainability. It's starting to reflect serious commitment to organic wines, green winery design, carbon neutrality. Is this a trend that restaurants should take note of and have a category on their wine list? Very complicated answer that I'm going to tell you because the vast majority of California wines today are sustainable. It doesn't mean much as far as the grapes. The biggest impact has to do with better conditions for the harvesters and the other vineyard workers. So, but there's so many, there are way more sustainable wineries in California than those that haven't been sustainable. I am not in favor of seeing information about sustainability, organics, or biodynamics on the wine list. And part of that is some of the best winemakers in the world and some of the best wines in the world are biodynamic, but they're not certified. You know, winemakers are a very independent lot, and they don't like to be regulated, and they don't like to pay for certifications. So there are some that are certified as biodynamic, and others that just follow that practice because they believe it's better for their health and better for the wines and make better wines. So it's really complicated. I've seen it on wine lists, and what people tend to do is they say, oh, these are the healthy wines. Well, a lot of the ones that are on your list that aren't certified organic or biodynamic are following those disciplines. So the certification is something that a lot of people don't want for their own reasons, if that's clear. And then the next question was, if I had $25 and wanted to buy a nice bottle of wine to bring to a friend's house, what would it be? So I tend to go for, you know, if I'm bringing presents to people's houses, I tend to go for the underdogs or the ones that are worthy of discussion because they're not household names. So the first one that comes to mind if I was looking for a white wine is a Greek wine called a Syrtiko from the island of Santorini. Syrtiko is crisp, it's citric, it's appley, it's bone dry, and a lot of people aren't even aware of the fact that Greece makes such high quality wines. They probably still have images of Retsina and you know, other wines like that in their mind. But Greece has undergone a great quality revolution, the same as Portugal. The next white wine I would pick would be any dry Riesling from Alsace you can find for $25, or a couple of wines from the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, Ravines and Herman J. Beamer. Great dry Rieslings, good with a lot of savory dishes and not too expensive. And then if I was bringing a red wine, I would pick Grenache, or as the Spanish call it, because it originates in Spain, Garnacha. I love the surprise factor because this is an underdog wine, and particularly from the regions of Campo de Borja and Calatayud. Garnacha, old vine Garnacha makes great wine. So the one from Campo de Borja I'd suggest is Moncayo, and the one from Calatayud is Breca, old vine Breca. And that's actually retails at about $15. So those are the picks that I would make, and you can still get a very, you know, retailers are enjoying a boom today because of the COVID, and you know, people are still drinking a lot of wine, but they're not drinking it in restaurants, clubs, or tasting rooms of wineries as much anymore. But they are drinking, and they're buying great wines at retail. So you have a opportunity to, you know, if you are picking up a bottle of wine for somebody, to get some good values in retail stores today. Those are the questions that people submitted. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to ask?
Hi, Sandy, it's Beth. Yes, we had a couple in the chat room.
Yeah.
One wanted to know if you had any recommendations for any wines from Argentina.
Yes, you know, big is not bad. And Argentina has one producer that to me is head and shoulders above almost everyone else there, and they've been at it longer than everyone else, and they're large, but they make great wine, and that is Catena. So Laura Catena is an amazing producer. She is, especially her single vineyard wines, I would highly recommend. Another producer that I like very much from Argentina, another female producer, her name is Susana Balbo, and she makes a moderately priced wine called Crios, which means nursery in Spanish. And And her upper tier wines are delicious as well. So anything from Catena or Susana Balbo, I would highly recommend.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think we have one other one from someone about, are there any old varieties that are being reintroduced in Italy, if you know of anything?
That is a fantastic question. I would say one of the big movements in Italy and in Spain, by the way, over the last several decades has been to repropagate heirloom grape varieties that were once used and then fell out of favor for one reason or another. And it happens all throughout Italy. So in southern Italy, in Campania, I would call your attention to a grape called Falangina. This is traced back to Roman times. Falangina is a grape that had essentially no standing in the market and has now become one of the most popular. It's been propagated and repropagated all over Campania, become one of the most famous southern Italian white wines. If we want to go to the other end of Italy, up north in Piemonte, there's a grape variety that was also almost extinct, a white grape variety called Arneis, Arneis. And that grape variety has now been thriving in the very hilly conditions of northwestern Italy, and highly recommended, particularly by a producer named Bruno Di Cosa, also Bruno Tiretto, a couple of Brunos up there. But all throughout Italy, there have been wonderful grape varieties. There's one in the Chianti region that, as far as I know, is only being made into wine by one producer. It's called Pugnatello. It's sort of a variant of Sangiovese, but it's not Sangiovese. There's been a lot of research and repropagation of these ancient grape varieties in Italy, as well as in Spain, as I mentioned. Good questions.
Anybody else have any other questions? No, but the person who asked that question said, thanks a lot. You appreciated it. If nobody else has any other questions, I really just want to thank Sandy and Terry for this fabulous presentation. I feel that I've been around the world in like 30 minutes, and I'm feverishly trying to take notes here about all the different wines. But I mean, you know, between the conversations about wines from France and Germany and the Alsace Valley there, and Argentina. I didn't know about that. I don't know if I got the name of it right, but that's why we're recording it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to, we have a YouTube channel, so I'm going to make sure I go back and listen to all of it. And I love rosé, to hear a little bit about a Sancerre Rosé, because I like also Pinot Noir. Those are my two favorites. So it was like, I bought one and it was fabulous. And also just the mention of the Finger Lakes. So here in our own backyard, to be able to have a wine to go and taste from that area is fabulous. Do you recommend like a Total Wines, or do you have a favorite liquor store that you'd like to go to find some of these fabulous wines that you discussed with us?
You know, I think there's a lot of value in smaller, high quality carriage trade stores. People take a lot of time to explain things, and you know, they make their selections based on their own palate. And if you find a retailer who matches your taste, you know, that's really a good thing. There's one store that I really like, owned by a former student of mine in not too far from the financial district, called Common Vines. They have a really interesting selection. But yeah, there's a lot of great retailers out there, and I think the critical piece is go in asking for something specific, and if they sound like they know what they're talking about, buy the bottle and, you know, see whether you like it as well.
Well, that's what I did. I live in Stoneham, and there's a little liquor store called Rapid Liquors.
Oh,
And
yeah,
by
yeah.
the- you would think it was like nothing, but they are so helpful. And I brought your list in and I showed it to them, and they showed me a couple different things. And then I finally settled on a Sancerre Rose that was it was fabulous. I wish I could drink all afternoon, but I can't. But I did have it for the toast. So I'm going to turn it back over to Terry to see.
I just have a question. Personally, I'm a big wine drinker, a little too much sometimes, but I'm on a kick right now of New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. I like the grapefruit. I like the crispness. I'm a fan of Cloudy Bay. I just found a treasure called Squealing Pig. It's a 2018. You can now buy that Total Wine because I kept on ordering cases. But do you have a recommendation for a Sauvignon Blanc that's, retail?
Well, I love Cloudy Bay too. So I wouldn't recommend anything over that, but there's one called Momo, M-O-M-O, which is very good, a little less expensive than Cloudy Bay. And there's another one that I really like from the southern part of New Zealand. Cloudy Bay is Marlborough, but there's one I really like called Pegasus Bay. It's a little bit rounder and smoother than most New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. Because it's from a different region than Marlborough.
Nice.
Yeah. But you can't, honestly, the level of quality coming out of New Zealand is so strong that you almost can't go wrong with anything.
Yeah.
I rarely have, when I was running Legal Seafoods, we would do our tastings and selections in blind format, so we weren't influenced by the label. And, we would taste 8 or 9 New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. Yes, it was a fun job. And we wouldn't know their names, and they will all get good scores. So it was really like, it's just a magic place for Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. I love it. I could keep on asking questions, but I'll let other people ask a few.
Should I? Okay, I'm seeing on the chat, Mary Chin is asking, I honeymooned in New Zealand and then it just disappeared.
She hasn't come back.
No, it was just a no. It wasn't a question. It was just that New Zealand, Marlborough wine country is just magical. It's a really, really wonderful wine country.
Yeah, and people in New Zealand are they have a real can-do attitude. It's great. It takes a long time to get there. I was fortunate enough to be able to fly first class, so it took a little bit of the sting off. But
I had done some wine tasting in France, and then when I did wine tasting in New Zealand, they were the first ones that said, if it tastes good to you, then it's wonderful. Yeah. And let's do something that you like. And that was a very different attitude than I had had in other countries.
Yeah, they're very positive and energetic. And I know every winemaker I've met from New Zealand is like 6'6" and a rugby player. They're a rugged group. But what isn't as well known though, and you obviously know, Mary, because you were there tasting, is how good the Rieslings are from New Zealand and how great the Pinot Noirs are. And it's not just one region that makes Pinot Noir. There's about 6 or 7 regions that produce a very different style. But if you ever see a Pinot Noir from New Zealand, from Central Otago, which is the southernmost winemaking district in the world, they're all really, really good. Unfortunately, they usually start at about $50 a bottle, but well worth a try.
We have another question, Sandy, in the chat. In your opinion, who is the next big winemaker, an up-and-comer, so to speak, that we haven't heard of yet, but we will in the next few years?
Oh, wow. Not sure I know the answer to that question. I don't have that kind of crystal ball. I don't know if anyone's not heard of Peter Michael from California, from Knights Valley. They're a name that you have to start paying attention to. There was a winery called Costa Brown in California that makes really, really good wine, and the owners sold the company to somebody else, and they're both making wine on their own now, Dan Costa and Michael Brown. So I think they're going to make a splash. But other than that, I don't really have too many other names that are floating around in my head as to who the next stars are going to be.
Any other questions from our club? No? Well, I have a silly question. So how do you pronounce, because I'm told two different ways, and our wine director for our company says it one way and I say it a different way, but Vouv, is it Vuv like love or is it Vouv?
Vouv. It's in between, actually.
Okay.
Vouv.
Vouv.
Vouv. Means with.
Veuve. It's veuve.
Vouv. Vouv.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's not Vouv and it's not, yeah, it's Vouv. Vouv.
Okay, then I'm with you, but I'm not telling her she's wrong.
Yeah, just think of it as VUV. Vouv.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
And
Anyone?
by the way, the rosé from, while we're on the subject of rosé, the rosé from Bookweeko is spectacular. I don't think they get all the credit that they deserve because they're big, and there's a prejudice. Big is bad, but they make outstanding wine all along the spectrum of their wines. I visited Bookweeko a few times, and then they patented the color of that yellow label, and they have a whole range of products in this display case that they the other producers, not wine producers, but perfume and apparel and other categories tried to use that color, and they were they were not allowed to.
Wow.
So they're on top of their game.
I'm just so excited. I know how to pronounce above Kouklé now. I can never get it down. I just screwed it up again. I was practicing. Well, I wrote it down.
B-U-V and then C-L-E-E, K-O-E, Clico.
Clico.
Beth, we'll practice while we drink it.
Yes, but because that's one reason I don't drink it, because I don't know how to pronounce it. And I don't order it, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So I have work to do on that one.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying before. If you can't say it, you're going to be reluctant to buy it.
Exactly. Or I just have to point to it, and then I look even more stupid.
Well, a lot of people, the number one fear that a lot of restaurant diners have pertaining to wine is not even the pronunciation and not even the price. The number one fear is my friend going to like this? Is my girlfriend going to like this? Is my boss going to like this? Because you thrust it, you're given the wine list. There's so many options, and everyone has a slightly different palate. So that when I became a little bit more experienced as a sommelier, I tried to learn a common language that was easy for people to understand. And at the beginning, all I asked was, "You want something dry?" But it's hard to talk about wine. It's harder to talk about than food because you're using analogies and not specific flavors.
Yeah. I think we've learned a lot today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to your group, and best of luck with your future endeavors. I know this industry, I'm just coming out of hard hit, but there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, you've been great because you've educated all of us, and we are a networking group. But the knowledge that you expanded upon us today was amazing, and I saw a lot of people taking notes, and there's been a lot of questions within the chat. So, Terry, I'll let you close it if you don't mind.
No, I just wanted to thank you again, Sandy, for coming. I am very, very privileged to call you a friend. He's always helped me and answered so many questions in my career. So just, thank you. I love wine. I love how wine tells stories. I love how I love it. And your dedication to our industry is something that I admire. And I'm just very happy that you were able to take the time out of your day to spend some time with us. I know that speaking on behalf of our club, we really greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Terry. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
And for everybody else, thank you for attending today. Our March meeting will be on the 18th of March, which is 4 weeks from today. And we're just fine tuning what the topic will be. I guarantee you it will be something probably around the St. Patrick's Day theme, since St. Patrick's Day officially is the day before. And I hope that all of you can join us. And I hope that many of you can stay on for a little bit of conversation and networking. But for those of you who have to go, and I realize that you do have to go, we will see you next month. But thank you really so much on behalf of the 2021 board that you were with us today via Zoom, and keep your fingers crossed that we will all soon be vaccinated and we're going to be able to meet in person shortly. So
I have
have a
one more
great
thing,
month.
sorry to say, but I will find out what the name of that Sancerre Rose that Sandy had, and we'll email it out or we'll put it on our social media. So I'll take care of that for you guys today.
Thank you. Perfect. Great. Anybody wants to say?
Beth.
I'll be here
Well
for a
done.
while.
Congratulations to Stephanie. She had a great person to mentor her. Her sister Chris is terrific.
Yes,
All
she
the
is.
best to you. All the best to you, Stephanie. You're going to be great.
Thank you,
Her
Maria.
sister was the one that, I mean, because of her sister, she's been selling raffle tickets and doing everything and been very involved in our club. So
That's the way to start. That's a
Yes,
great start.
the best
Yeah,
way. to be
congratulations. What a great club we have. Thank you, Beth.
Fabulous.
What a
club.
great job. Thank you.
If we can just
Been a
get
great
Bye-bye.
leader in
to
Beth.
be a member of our club, could you imagine? We have Skål USA president, we have Skål international counselor. I mean, we'd be like rocking it.
You really do. Take care. Bye, Jim. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Mario.
Mario.
Bye, everybody.
Kidnap you.
I think I'll go out and get a vote Clicquot.
Exactly. Now that we know how to pronounce it.
I majored in French.
I always have.
Thank you guys very much. It was so nice to see everyone. I have to go pick up my son, but it was really nice to see everyone.
Well, it's good
Nice
to
to
see
see
you
you
too.
too.
So glad